I'm looking forward to this card on Wednesday, June 6th at the York Hall, Bethnal Green. Two fights in particular I'm looking forward to are Ted Cheeseman versus Paul Upton, a clash of two unbeaten prospects for the WBA International Super Welterweight title, and obviously the main event, Lawrence Okolie versus Luke Watkins. Lawrence Okolie is only 8-0. He did not have very many amateur fights. Even though he did take part in the Olympics, he was not a vastly experienced amateur. He's only, as I say, 8-0, and he's taking on back-to-back unbeaten domestic rivals in Isaac Chamberlain, who he just beat, and now Luke Watkins, who has more fights than him, as you can see. Luke Watkins is Paddy Fitzpatrick's fighter. He's taken him, correct me if I'm wrong, all the way from the amateurs throughout his entire professional career so far. So if Luke Watkins does well as a professional, it's going to bolster Paddy Fitzpatrick's standing as a trainer. Paddy Fitzpatrick's been around for a very long time. He worked with Adam Booth and David Hay, George Groves and whatnot. But I think his reputation did take a bit of a knock after the George Groves situation, which I felt, I mean, I wasn't on the inside, so I don't know how those training camps went. But Paddy Fitzpatrick did train George Groves for the first Carl Froch fight. So you can't only blame a guy for his failures, you also have to credit him for his successes, you know? So we'll see anyway how Luke Watkins does, because this is a guy who's been completely built from scratch by Paddy Fitzpatrick. Luke Watkins, from what I've seen of him, stylistically, now, don't anybody get carried away here, but stylistically, he reminds me of Keith Thurman, a cruiserweight version of Keith Thurman. I'm not saying he's that good. I'm not saying he's going to be anywhere near as good as Keith Thurman, or is going to, be able to carry Keith Thurman's jockstrap. All right, that's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is, stylistically, there's some similarity there, and even physically, he looks a little bit similar to Keith Thurman. All right. So yeah, he's a boxer puncher, a guy who likes to use his legs, who likes to plant his feet when he gets inside and throw the big right hand, big left hook, etc. He's 6'1", whereas Lawrence Okolie is 6'5". Okolie is improving. As I say, he didn't have that many amateur fights, so you can still see Okolie looks a bit raw in terms of his technique, but the punching power is undeniable from Lawrence Okolie, and the physical strength, as we saw from the Isaac Chamberlain fight. He's a very strong man. So we'll see if Luke Watkins can stand up to what Lawrence Okolie is going to dish out. I don't know this for sure, but I suspect that Luke Watkins is a bit physically stronger than Isaac Chamberlain. And I also suspect that Luke Watkins has a bit more self-belief than Isaac Chamberlain. I think he's probably in a better place mentally going into this fight than Isaac Chamberlain was when he fought Lawrence Okolie. So I'm expecting this to be more competitive, definitely more competitive than the Lawrence Okolie-Isaac Chamberlain fight. And also, I think the fact that this is at York Hall rather than at the O2 will bring out a better performance from Lawrence Okolie. I think less falling in with punches, less holding, etc. I think it will bring out a better performance, because I don't think either Lawrence Okolie or Isaac Chamberlain were ready for an event of that magnitude, fighting at the O2 so early on in their careers. Think about it. Lawrence Okolie was 7-0 going into headline at the O2. That is a hell of a lot of pressure for a 7-0, novice at the time, really. Novice/prospect to headline at the O2 is a hell of a lot of pressure. And when you're under that kind of pressure, it's difficult to produce your best when you're so inexperienced. So if that fight had been at the York Hall, I think you might have seen a better performance out of Lawrence and Isaac Chamberlain, just my view. So yeah, the fact that this one is at York Hall, I think is going to be better. So apart from the two fights I've just mentioned, there's also a few other fighters I'm interested to see. Craig Spider Richards, Daniyar Yelolusinov, the highly touted amateur standout from Kazakhstan. Looking forward to seeing him. I didn't see his first fight, so I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Craig Spider Richards. Who else here? Felix Cash. Felix Cash was a very good amateur. Unlike most of Eddie Hearn's fighters, Felix Cash has been moved relatively slowly so far. Right? He hasn't been fighting the level of opposition that people like Lawrence Okolie have been fighting, for example. And I'm sure Felix Cash had more fights than Lawrence Okolie. So for a Eddie Hearn prospect, he's been moved relatively slowly. Cheeseman's had more fights, and Cheeseman is stepping up. He just fought Carson Jones, now fighting Paul Upton. So yeah, it should be a good card. I'm looking forward to it. And again, on the whole Eddie Hearn thing, I do a lot of Eddie Hearn videos, and you get these people saying, oh, Hatman's just an Eddie Hearn fanboy and all this kind of nonsense. Look, there are people out there who just want to hate on anything that's popular because they think it makes them cool. That's how sad these people are. Anything that's popular, anyone who's doing well, they want to hate because they think it makes them cool. They think they're hardcore if they hate on whatever's popular, whatever fighter's popular, or whatever promoter is popular. I don't even try and engage with people like that. These toxic, deeply negative people who just are negative for the sake of being negative. In fact, they're negative because their lives are trash. That's why they're negative. All the time about everything. Anything that's popular, anything that people are happy about, they come and trash it. Time and time again. Eddie Hearn don't pay me. Eddie Hearn is a guy who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. I've got no vested interest in him making loads of money. But if Eddie Hearn is delivering products which I find to be of good quality, then I'm going to say it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. The same when Al Heyman first started out with PBC and so many people were attacking it, I was defending it. I made video after video defending Al Heyman, and at one point even attacking Eddie Hearn for the fact that he was hating on Heyman. I'm a boxing fan at the end of the day, people. So forget about it being cool to hate this guy or cool to hate that guy. No, I like whoever's delivering me entertainment and whoever's delivering me a good product. And right now, Eddie Hearn is taking more risks with his fighters than the competition is in the United Kingdom. You look at who Frank Warren's prospects are fighting and compare it to who Eddie Hearn's prospects are fighting. It's night and day. Look who Josh Kelly is scheduled to fight. Look at Lawrence Okolie. When O'Hara Davis was with Eddie Hearn, look at the fights he put him in. Eddie Hearn is more willing to take risks, and people say, oh, O'Hara Davis lost. Well, yeah, when you take risks, you win some, you lose some. You got to be in it to win it, though. It's fighting, you come back from a loss. All this protecting your old business to make your record look pretty, it don't necessarily make you a good fighter. I know many fighters over the past few years have talked about this. They've talked about the fact that people are trying to preserve their old is killing boxing. And to some extent it is. Again, Eddie Hearn is not perfect. There are going to be times I definitely criticize Eddie Hearn and criticize him strongly. But at the moment, when it comes to putting his prospects and putting his fighters, even his world champions in risky fights, he's been doing it. Look at the people Joshua's fought in his first 22 fights. Look at the risks he's taken with him. I mean, I don't know what brand of crack people are smoking when they're acting like Eddie Hearn. Everything Eddie Hearn does is just rubbish. It's just terrible. We're supposed to complain of any card Eddie Hearn puts on before certain people have even checked who's on the card. They're hating already. Unbelievable. This is a good card. For a Your Call card, this is a good card. I'm very much looking forward to it. And big up Lawrence Okolie and Luke Watkins, by the way, for putting it all on the line against unbeaten domestic opposition. Yeah? Big up. Because certain fighters and their manager/trainer, they don't want to do that. And yeah, I'm talking about Anthony Yard again with Tunde Ajayi. And it's no disrespect to either of them, because I like both of them, to be honest with you. I like Tunde and I like Anthony Yarde. I think Anthony Yarde is a precocious talent. But when you see interviews with Tunde Ajayi saying that Joshua Buatsi ain't on their level, and dismissing the idea that they should fight because Buatsi ain't on their level, does that mean that the guys Yarde is fighting are on his level? Is that what he's saying? The likes of Baranyi, you know, these people that Anthony Yarde himself is naming after food. Nemes Patti and Baranyi or Biryani as Yarde was. So these guys are on Yarde's level, right? Because you're acting like you can't fight Buatsi because he's not on your level, but yet you're fighting Baranyi and Nemes Patti and all these guys. So they're on Yarde's level, right? Come on. If you're going to guide Anthony Yarde's career carefully, cool. Guide it carefully. But don't then come out and act like people like Buatsi ain't on your level. Because you're contradicting yourself. The same with Callum Johnson. Oh, well, maybe you're talking about rankings. Oh, well, where's Buatsi ranked? Where's he ranked in the British rankings? You know? And what about Callum Johnson? Callum Johnson is getting a world title fight. Isn't he ranked high enough to fight Anthony Yarde? Isn't he on your level? There's always, man, I think that Tunde should probably do less talking, because the talking is making him look bad. It's making him and Yarde look foolish at this point. And again, no disrespect. You understand? No disrespect. I like both of them, but the PR is not good right now from Team Yarde. It's not good. The way they're dismissing all these fights, these domestic fights, these are not world title fights. These are domestic fights. And as I mentioned in the previous video, you can't tell me that Jose Burton is not, at the moment, a domestic level fighter. He is. He's not world level. Not right now. Anthony Yarde can't fight a domestic fight. Like, anyway, I'm getting to the point where people are going to say I'm obsessed with this Anthony Yarde Tunde Ajayi situation. But I don't know. I like Anthony Yarde as a fighter, and I want to see what he can do. And people actually keep tagging me in videos, you know, these interviews with Tunde Ajayi, saying, oh, Ajayi explains all. But he doesn't explain anything in any of the videos. All Tunde does is just waffle and act like people ain't on his level, and so we ain't going to fight this one and we ain't going to fight that one because they're not on our level. But then who are you fighting? So does that mean the guys you're fighting are on your level? Like, it don't make any sense. It don't make any sense. All right. Anyway, yeah, definitely looking forward to this card here. Luke Watkins, Lawrence Okolie, and I favor Lawrence Okolie to win the fight. I think it'll be a tough fight. You know, Luke Watkins winning would not surprise me at all. I do think it's a tougher, more competitive fight than Okolie versus Chamberlain. I think Okolie's punching power and physical strength will come into play more in this fight. And I think Okolie is going to box a bit more controlled against Luke Watkins. And I think he'll use his height and reach effectively, or more effectively than he did against Lawrence Okolie. Because more effectively than he did against Isaac Chamberlain. Because Lawrence was falling in against Chamberlain, and it was really his physical strength and size that won him that fight more than his height and reach. You know, it was the fact that he was able to just manhandle Isaac Chamberlain up close. That's what won him the fight and bully him. Whereas against Watkins, I think Watkins will be a bit stronger than Chamberlain, and therefore I think Okolie will need to use his height and reach a bit more. And also I think he'll do so because of the fact that I don't think he'll be as nervous. There's not as much pressure, I don't think, in this fight as there was in the previous fight. But again, big up to both men for putting it all on the line so early on in their careers, especially Lawrence Okolie. You know, especially him. It's good to see these domestic dust-ups taking place so early in fighters' careers, because that's what we want to see at the end of the day. They're both in the same boat. It's not like you're throwing Okolie in with someone who's vastly more experienced, or Watkins in with someone who's vastly more experienced. Yeah, Watkins got a few more fights than Okolie, but they're on the same kind of level right now. So it's good to see these guys matched evenly. That's what it is. They're evenly matched. You're not throwing them in with world champions. They're just in an evenly matched domestic level fight, and the loser can learn a lot from it. Yeah? It's like in the amateurs. In the amateurs, you're going to fight people on your level. That's what's going to happen. Nobody's saying, oh, that's terrible in the amateur system, the way they match people in 50-50s. You're supposed to be matched in 50-50s. You know? And obviously, as a professional, when you turn over, there is a process that you go through, a building process, where you're supposed to get used to the crowd, you're supposed to get used to the atmosphere, you're supposed to hone and refine your technique, etc. And for some fighters, the building process is going to take longer than others. Some fighters need longer to get their confidence than others. But, you know, ultimately, when you're taking out all these journeymen and you're doing it in relatively easy fashion, there's going to be cause for you to step up, understandably so. There has to be. There just has to be. You know? So, anyway, longer video than I wanted it to be, but yeah, plenty for you guys to chew on right there. So, yeah, let me know how you feel in the comment section below. Who's going to win this fight between Lawrence Okolie and Luke Watkins? How does it go down? 12-rounder at the Okolie. And also Ted Cheeseman versus Paul Upton. How do you guys see that one going? Let me know how you feel in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.